I am danger.
Ready to rumble?
Do 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 do. I am danger. In the air. Come on. Hold
I
on.
can feel it coming in
Whoa.
the air
None of that
tonight.
language.
What?
What?
All right.
Soup to nuts. What?
Yeah, I think we're... Are you going to talk louder?
I'm doing the best I can given the circumstances.
Sounds like shit.
Now that you've stolen my producer chair that I rest upon
You shall never produce.
comfortably.
I am the producer.
It's hard out here being so super talented, being the talent.
Are you ready?
I'm not, what the fuck?
Are you ready?
I don't been
I've had
ready.
enough of your shenanigans.
Hi.
Hello. Welcome to the Low Ceiling. I'm Big Mother. That's Whiskey Tango.
What up, what up? It's a good thing that I had a bunch of drinks just before we started.
Yeah.
Water and coffee, but still.
You are wasted right now.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
I'm a little high.
You need help.
a little bit. Just in life.
You've needed help for a long time.
Don't we all?
No, I mean you need alcoholic help. You need help with your alcohol problem. That's what I mean specifically.
It's called a special coffee for a reason.
It's an addiction
to get
and it's
you
ruining
going.
my life.
I'm going to get serious calls. You have to call.
No.
Yeah.
Pre's totally a functional alcoholic. You don't have to worry about
All
it. She'll be
right.
fine. Welcome to the Low Ceiling. I think I already said that. I'm
Yeah,
John. You're
and
Pre.
I'm Pre. Do not.
You're Pre.
Yes, right. And you are?
John.
You're out of here.
Today we're talking about
Behind Enemy
Behind
Lines.
Enemy Lines, a John Moore joint from 2001 starring Owen Wilson.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, Owen Wilson. Owen Wilson.
You had something to say about him, didn't you?
I have lots to say about him in a second, but you wanted to start. You were like, I got stuff to say.
I'm thinking, okay, Behind Enemy Lines, 2001.
Yeah.
Obviously, I just want to get this out of the way. There's something to be said about war films that come out after 9/11, 2001.
Did this come out after 9/11?
Yes. Everybody, understandably, is just walking on cultural eggshells, right? Right after 9/11. The media is extremely sensitive when they talk about war, when they talk about America, how it's portrayed. And then there's also like a full list of films that were canceled.
America,
right after 9/11.
America was at an all-time high.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way.
Not in a great way, but also kind of in a great way.
There
in the
was lots
fallout
of
it.
sympathy and empathy for the tragedy that America suffered in 9/11, and there was a lot of like in America for sure. It was probably peak America for Americans
Extreme.
too. Coming together in the face of such a tragedy.
Yeah.
Which that's kind of when America is at its most sincere and at its best, you know?
Well, of course.
Yeah.
Thinking back to the American patriotic film Jennifer's Body,
Yeah.
where we talked about the town that basically dedicates itself to 9/11 and its aftermath.
Yeah.
I still remember like Bush's fucking jingoistic speech right after, understandably, right? Like he leaned heavily into the revenge and redemption for America narrative that we will free the people, blah blah blah, safety. Da, da, da.
It's all down here from here, folks.
Yeah,
Because it was.
and so with all that in mind, literally 2 months later, Behind Enemy Lines comes out.
It's a Christmas movie or late
Close-ish
fall?
November, and then I understand that the public needs to see a movie where America wins. Whatever, right? Even though it's like heavily NATO and da-da-da, it didn't matter
But
that it was a bad movie.
America forges its own path in this film.
Yeah.
Outside of the auspices of NATO, right? That's part of the plot of this movie.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it also kind of, there's parts where it's like, the movie is about war zone Bosnia, But then there's this like distinction between Bosniaks, which is like who are the Muslim people, and then but this is about America coming in and being like, we have to save the Muslim genocide.
Well, America, they cut through all the nonsense and they get right to the point. Not only do they get their guy, but they also prove that genocide and ethnic cleansing is happening in Bosnia.
That's right. And they do it on Christmas Day.
They do it without all this dilly-dallying paperwork that NATO would want to do by not interfering with the peace process. Yeah.
I remember watching this movie as fucking 12, 13-year-old, right? Mm-hmm. And that was the only time I had seen it. And I remember this film very fondly.
This cinema
of Behind Enemy Lines, which is why I was so excited to talk about it. And so in preparation...
you chose this.
Yeah.
Which is a very John thing for you to do.
What are you talking about? I'm a huge war movie buff.
Yeah, I know, but I was surprised when you said Behind Enemy Lines, because I had actually watched it recently.
Oh, right.
I was like... okay. Because I think this movie is very entertaining, but I was like, I didn't think it would be something you would like.
I did not.
Again, on rewatch.
On rewatch, as a grown adult, as a somewhat functioning alcoholic. Wow.
Yeah.
It took look, I remember it more fondly when I was young. And now I'm like, oh, okay.
Yes.
This is the year. I don't know, just younger people like us, right? When we were younger in 2001, they watch it with this excitement and this like thrill of post 9/11 seeing cinema like this come out.
We watched it in when we were 11, the way that adults watched Top Gun Maverick this past year.
There you go. That's perfect.
Yeah.
And then it's this also big like turn of the millennium fucking guy with the nose in the movie. And everyone's excited to just... It's an uncomplex film. Yeah.
Made by an uncomplex filmmaker.
That's
about
right.
a pretty uncomplex story. And that's the thing. One of the things I wrote down is that like one thing that's very dissatisfying about this movie is it's a little too simple because you know what? I've read a lot about the Yugoslav wars, and I still don't understand them because it was one of the most complicated periods in Europe's 100%. History, and it's really hard to decipher. There's so much happening in that time period that like we, as myself personally from a totally other continent, it's like hard to really know what was happening. But I do remember, I remember seeing reports about it on the news. I remember hearing the term ethnic cleansing quite a lot when I was young. Mm-hmm. Even still today, where I'm quite interested in what was happening there, I'm still like, it's really hard to understand all of the complications.
Because it's cool that you mentioned that, because even in the movie they make a point to, which was one of the very few interesting parts where they take a second to address the nuances between Serbs versus Muslims versus whoever else is in that pocket, where they're like, how could you know the enemy was wearing this uniform? I've been here 5 years, I still can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
So there's like small things like that, which kind of stayed in my mind longer.
That thematic material isn't like dealt with very well.
Not at all. It's like thrown away.
It's a little bit like, it's like they touch it at one point and then they're just kind of like, okay, well, but America doesn't want to hear this shit. But don't worry,
guys, war is hell. Don't forget.
Let's not overcomplicate things because to be perfectly frank, and obviously this movie was made before September 11th, but I have a feeling that it might have been different had it come out before September 11th, right? Had it been edited, finished, and whatever, maybe. I don't know. I didn't look into that. Maybe it would. At the time, though, like lots of action movies, especially when it involves the U.S. military, is just kind of like, look, Americans don't want to think about this shit. It wasn't It wasn't really until our beloved but not well seen something like Jarhead that an American military movie was kind of like, maybe this isn't all great. Well, and sorry, but really, I actually think the mainstream of that was The Hurt Locker,
right?
You know,
right,
where the valorization of the American military in film had kind of peaked, and then it starts to go down as the Iraq War gets more complicated, right?
War movies, though, tend to have a certain cadence, right? There's a war film that is done with like philosophical underpinnings, like Apocalypse Now, possibly like Jarhead, where there's just soldiers sitting around pontifying about why the fuck are we here, what are we doing.
Well, it has more of a philosophical idea behind it that drives it.
Or it's like maybe purely action, like Full Metal Jacket, where you get in.
Full Metal Jacket is not purely action though. That's got a philosophical.
It's story driven for sure.
But that's like I would consider Full Metal Jacket more of a thoughtful war film.
100%. I'm just saying they get in there, and then you have like 45 minutes, like Pearl Harbor. You get 45 minutes of just action sequences, and then everything leading up to it is just the character story. With this one though, with Behind Enemy Lines though, it tries to do a little bit of everything and not enough of any one thing.
No.
And that's part of why it's pretty not great.
That's a large reason why it's not great.
It tries to be action. It has like 1 second of philosophy where Owen Wilson's character wants to quit the Navy because war isn't war enough for him.
It's a little too lighthearted for such a cruel conflict. Like the If anyone out there wants to watch like a truly like harrowing film about the Yugoslav wars, Kovadis Ivida.
Find out.
It's a really we watched it. Remember, it's a Serbian film, I think, or a Bosnian movie. You remember watching it, right? And it's about Srebrenica, the massacre is there.
I fully remember it. I just don't remember the title very well.
Yeah, and it's like a really, really, really disturbing movie about this time period. And this movie, it's interesting because it's about a guy who doesn't understand why he's been asked to be a soldier, and then he learns why he should be a soldier in the end, you know.
Quo Vadis Ida.
Yeah. It's a very, very good movie. But this movie is very much kind of like,
oh, incredible.
I don't know why I want to serve. And then it's like, now I know. Yeah, all right, okay.
Now you should continue to not serve, my guy.
Yeah, and the movie it kind of tries to do this thing where it's like it's a little too lighthearted, like I said, for like a cruel war.
Yeah.
But it also doesn't want to not make the Navy or being a fighter pilot look too scary, you know? And much like people, when Top Gun Maverick came out this year, people were like, I mean, they were all calling it like military propaganda, which to an extent lots of military films are, but this movie definitely has that stink about it. And I would contrast it with another movie which has a historical connection to this film, actually. So this movie is loosely based on a true story about a guy who was shot down named Tom O'Grady or something like that.
Who sued the director, I think.
Probably.
Yeah.
I didn't actually look a lot into that because, like, as far as what I read was, it was like, I mean, if it's based on it at all, they both got shot down. Right. That's about it.
Yeah.
And one of the things about the war, that the Bosnian War, was like NATO got involved, but they only got involved in the air, essentially. They actually like went to war in the air against Serbian targets. Mm-hmm. And the reason they only went in the air was because of the disaster of having ground troops in Somalia, in Mogadishu, which is what Black Hawk Down is based on.
Totally, yeah.
Black Hawk Down, a movie that came out the same year.
Same year, yeah.
I don't know if it came out pre-September 11th or not. I haven't looked into that. But a movie that does a better job, not only because it's a Ridley Scott film, which makes, you know, but Black Hawk Down, with all of its flaws, Black Hawk Down still managed to like valorize the U.S. military, which is part of what it does, while also kind of being like, war is pretty fucked up. Like it's pretty messed 100%. Up over here. Yeah, because Black Hawk Down is a very, very disturbing film.
Oh my gosh.
In very many parts. But this movie kind of backs away from a lot of that, I think.
Yeah.
And that is what makes it like less effective.
Which is why it's shocking that the same year that fucking Black Hawk Down comes out, same year Pearl Harbor comes out, same year this movie comes out, and then the CGI still blows so hard for this movie.
The CGI in this movie is pretty bad.
Their practical effects, great.
But it was probably done on like a fourth of the budget of Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor's CGI is still pretty decent
also
for
bigger directors.
The year. Yeah, and like Pearl Harbor necessitated a lot of that, and I'm sure Michael Bay wouldn't settle for anything less than like however much he made it for.
No.
It was like this movie is much, much smaller, and you can totally tell it. And
That's
yes, the CGI is bad. But also like John Moore. Can we talk about John Moore, the director, a little bit?
Yeah, I got hella thoughts.
I don't have hella thoughts.
Okay.
I don't think John Moore is like a bad director. He's just never really made a good movie. In this movie, and even in something as atrocious as like Max Payne, you can see the technical skill.
Yeah.
And you can see the fact the guy can put together a scene. So the most interesting thing I found about John Moore was the critic Armand White has been a big defender of him. Do you know anything about Armand White? Armand White is like he's a critic. He's been a critic forever. He's a bit of a contrarian, and a lot of people consider him a troll in lots of ways. Like he hated The Dark Knight, he hated Get Out, things like that.
Yeah.
And also, as he's very proud to point out, he's black, gay, and conservative, which is, makes him a triple threat. But like he said something interesting in one of his reviews. He said his images are often more compelling than his plots, which I was like, that sums this guy
up. That's it. And that's the
perfectly.
Exact note I have.
Yeah.
If I had watched this film in like still frames or just pictures of like scenes from this movie, I would have been so compelled to be like, oh my God, I gotta go watch this.
The guy can shoot a movie. Like, there's no doubt about that.
Great.
Yeah.
Great still shots, like everything. But then, just coming together, it's like it feels like a cut and paste from his like war mood board put together in film.
As I think I've said before, like some of the parts are just certainly greater than the whole thing kind of pulled together.
Yeah.
One note I made was I think the music in this movie is really bad.
Stop. That's the real war crime. The soundtrack.
It's really not good.
What a range.
This movie could be like really improved with a better score.
Definitely.
In lots of ways.
There's techno. There's gospel music.
But even
there's
in like
Moby.
The big moments of like the score with like the choir and stuff and like the strings and all that kind of shit, it's just not it needed a steadier hand. One of the things that's so shocking about Pearl Harbor, which is as I've noted, is an incredible film and you hate for some weird reason, but Hans Zimmer does the score for Pearl Harbor,
right? And
the score for Pearl Harbor
saves
is notably it doesn't save it, but it definitely
it saves
helps.
It enough to be talked about.
It helps.
Yeah.
Because even when I was watching Pearl Harbor, in the moments where you're just like, oh man, the score is the only thing for me to top myself right now. Because like you do in those moments that are so boring in Pearl Harbor, you're just kind of like, well, the music in this movie is pretty fucking good, and that's because Hans Zimmer is does it right.
Yeah.
Aside from that, like John Moore, I mean, I've seen Max Payne. Max Payne is a really bad movie. Can I riff on Max Payne for a second?
Yeah.
So Max Payne was one of the first video games I ever played. And it's known for having a really good story for a video game, but even like it's still good. And the thing about it is that like they made this movie and then we're just like, man, this game's got a good story, but we should not use any of it. And it's like, why? Like it's so baffling to me because it's like, why don't you just use? Because the story of Max Payne, the video game, is not. It's not like it's like uber complex or hard to fucking make on screen.
Yeah,
they like messed it up so badly that you're just kind of like, you had a thing.
I know. Do you think it was maybe not enough demand for, like back in the day, for a game to be made into a movie that it would compel them to get bigger team of writers? Like now, Last of Us is such a big deal. Of course, it's a TV show, but Uncharted tanked too.
Yeah.
Max Payne tanked too. I don't know.
Mark Wahlberg, both. I guess he's the key. It's so weird because you're right, and the thing is too that I read is Max Payne. The rights are owned by 20th Century Fox, Disney, and they're redeveloping it to like quote unquote like I read that they were like calling it a reboot, but it's like reboot from what? You have nothing to reboot from. Just like no one really remembers this movie anyway, so you have no need to call it a reboot.
Yeah. But
because as I've ordained, we are entering the video game adaptation era of Hollywood. They might they're going to retry it, right? But yes, I think you're right that when Max Payne came out, it's a game from 2001.
Yeah.
The movie comes out in 08 or 09, but it's like
I know.
a video game from 2001 is not popular enough. Video games, if you remember at that time, they're not like they are today.
No.
And it's not popular enough for them to justify.
Not nearly.
So they were like, we have to make a movie that will appeal to mainstream people, which I think is part of why they cast Mila Kunis in it. But who's not a bad casting. I'm not against that, but she was very popular at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But then they were like, it's like, well, I don't know what about the video game story can't appeal to a mainstream audience, regardless of whether they know it or not. So
I think they couldn't have like leaned too far into nerd culture then, because 2008 was just the budding ground for comic books getting turned into movies like Avengers and the Hulk and so maybe the studio is like, let's put all our money and writers and efforts into creating something of quality.
Yeah, but the thing is though is that like what they did to Max Payne, it's like they looked at it and they were like, this is a little too obscure, let's like movify it. But then they made it so much weirder and more obscure and shittier.
Damn.
And more like inexplicable and strange. And so like
now I'm keen to watch it. Damn.
Well, I have to say, and this is unlike me. I actually just like didn't finish it. I usually, regardless of the quality of the film, I watch the whole thing. And I was like, I might watch it again this week. But I was kind of like, I want to watch it all for to get to today.
It
but
broke
just,
a completionist like you.
Yeah,
right?
broke my brain, much like the drug Valkyr, which is a big plot point in Max Payne.
Whoa, spoilers!
All right, so that's my diatribe about Max Payne. You have stuff to say about John Moore.
I know, just because we were talking about him earlier, and this is his first feature film, right?
Yes.
So he's just starting out, and you can tell that he's just starting out because he's like put a bunch of war-y tropes together and made a thing.
He feels like a hired gun.
Yeah.
Because this movie definitely has, like, John Moore, in my opinion, much like Gone in 60 Seconds. Yeah. It all feels like, you're like, these guys were really big fans of Tony Scott.
Yeah, yeah.
But it does feel like Tony Scott looked at a script for this movie,
100%.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, and was like, nah, thanks.
Yeah.
And with him, there's moments where it's like, okay, like when they're running through the forest and there's mist, it's like atmospheric. And then there's moments where it looks like video gamey. And then there's moments where it's probably over caffeinated. But then there's this interesting choice of when Owen Wilson's character is walking through landmines or trying to not trip one. And the entire like 10-minute sequence leading up to it is just like the cameraman is just like holding the camera like handheld. Yeah. Did you find that nauseating? No. Did you clock it?
I don't really notice that anymore.
It was unwatchable for me.
Really? But
I couldn't bear it.
But like it happens in so many movies.
It 100% does. And it's a good choice to like.
It can be. It's not always.
Yeah,
but it can
to
be.
like, especially in a war, to feel more immersed in the war itself. It's like, guys, do you remember war is hell? We brought you to war. Isn't war hell?
Yeah, I mean that was largely pioneered by Steven Spielberg.
Hard.
In Saving Private Ryan.
But yeah, interesting choice to do it for that long, for one guy.
I don't know. This movie is kind of like, it's inconsistent in its technical stuff that it's doing. Like I don't know. It's weird, and it's because the story is just so fucking basic.
And it's a basic story, which is the plot line. We don't even have to like dive too deep into it without giving too much away.
I want to say some stuff. Like during it, but before we do, I want to talk about Gene Hackman. I want to say one thing about Gene Hackman, and then I want to talk a little bit about Owen Wilson. Yeah. So Gene Hackman, this is the second movie we've done where he has to go face to face with a young whippersnapper who's typically a funny actor.
Both movies with the word enemy in it. Yeah. The enemy is Gene Hackman. Fire this guy, bro.
I mean, he's fine in this.
He phones it in so hard.
He's serviceable, yeah.
Bare minimum.
Yeah.
I just grumpier than the Grinch on Christmas Eve, dude. He's like, also just like the Grinch, I don't know his ethnicity. The Gene Hackman, short for General of NATO, I guess. Fucking Admiral, whatever, bro. Lol. I could not.
Yeah,
watch
he's he definitely seems like he's given 50% here. Yeah. So Owen Wilson.
Yeah.
I quite like Owen Wilson a lot.
Yeah.
I always have. It's hard to not like the guy. Like, I think he's a good actor. I think he's very funny.
Yeah.
I think so. He does all of that stuff with Wes Anderson, right?
He's
Royal
number one
Tenenbaums,
guy.
Bottle Rocket.
Everything. Royal Tenenbaums probably same year, I think.
Yeah, I think it is before this, but it's the same year.
Right.
But and that's fine. I really love him in Meet the Parents.
Yeah.
I think his
Zoolander?
performance in Meet the Parents, he is so perfect. And there's like, so I saw the movie when I was quite young, and I quite like Meet the Parents. But there is like he has that line because he's like a carpenter and whatever, and he's explaining to Ben Stiller, he's like, I'm just carpenter, just like JC. It's like, his casual, because he's super Christian,
just like JC,
and his super like casualness of like, yeah, it's so
nice.
He's so brilliant.
He's also the
movie.
perfect guy for it, the perfect face, the voice to be that character.
Yeah.
It's excellent. That good casting. This movie woefully miscast.
He does this movie, and I don't think he's bad in this. I really don't, and I don't think he's like incapable of serious acting, because he gets enough kind of like charm in this film with his stuff. But this movie did seem to like scare him away from ever doing a serious film ever again.
I feel like he made the smart choice of not wanting to be like a Rambo type actor or character.
Yeah.
Because like, look at you, right? Like, look at what you look like. So
I also think
most.
the film made the right choice.
Yeah.
To do it. Like, he's not someone who's a killer.
No,
you know?
and he's not someone who's like this renegade, like, I bend the rules, do what I want. I'm Mr. Bad Guy. He's not that guy either.
No.
He's just a guy.
Yeah.
He's a guy who likes to fly planes. And
he's like the class goof, but in the Navy.
But like minimal goofy too.
Yeah.
He's just like, I guess I could do it until I don't want to, and then I'm now British, I guess.
I am British Owen Wilson.
I'm most Owen. He even drops a few wows, which is
he doesn't ever even. It's his signature. That's his.
But the reason I just cannot get behind him is that, man, I can't even fucking bear to remember this guy's name. I remember his co-pilot's name.
Stackhouse.
Stackhouse is there for 2 seconds. Yeah. Stackhouse has another name.
Burnett.
Burnett is Owen Wilson's name.
Yeah.
But fucking Stackhouse has 2 names, incredibly also known as Longhorn. So why are they not giving Owen Wilson a better, cooler name?
You know what I'm a little frustrated by in this film, actually? So Gabriel Macht plays Stackhouse.
Yeah.
A man who went on to be in Suits. That was like his big thing,
That's right?
Which a show I've watched about 5 minutes of and just didn't do much for me.
It's not for me.
It's too networky.
Good for the princess and all.
Yeah, it's fine. And Gabriel Macht is like he's an attractive, good leading man for a television show. I have nothing against him. I think he's Canadian, which is cool. Mm-hmm. He just dies so early, and I kind of think that they have good chemistry in this. And I'm like, I wish Owen Wilson had to drag him across in his broken leg for a couple more minutes, but they just fucking kill him.
I guess maybe that's what happens in real life. I don't know if they have wanted to stay true to that or not, but
I don't know.
Whatever, dude. It's like
it hurts the movie though.
It hurts. It really does.
I know that I always say that it's not very good criticism to like wish for a different film, but I was like, yeah, but they were getting along so well.
I know, and it was such a sweet moment too. Yeah. And there's only a handful of good scenes in this film.
Exactly.
And they're all so short-lived.
And the thing is that Wilson is rarely on screen with anyone else, and therefore doesn't really have a lot of chemistry with Gene phoning it in Hackman. And so then you're just kind of like, I don't know, like it's so, it's silly. Stupid. Yeah.
It's like, step it up, bro. You're missing the most action.
Can I ask a question which might get us into like a longer conversation?
Yeah, let's do it.
Do you give, I want to go back to that thing I said about like military propaganda in film. Do you believe in that? Like, do you give that much credence as a thing that happens?
In that it trying to sway the audience?
Well, there was all this stuff about how I haven't looked into this too deeply, so forgive me, listeners, if I'm incorrect and stuff. But I around Top Gun Maverick's release, I saw a lot of stuff about people being like, like the U.S. military, like if they give aid to a movie, like equipment or blah blah blah, they also want to see the cut of it, because you can't just go make a movie. Jarhead was probably not aided by the U.S. military, right?
That's why it's good.
Which is exactly.
Yeah.
But people on Reddit and people on the web were kind of talking about it in an almost conspiratorial way.
Yeah.
Where I was kind of like, well, right, but then going so far as to be like, these are just kind of like Navy recruitment, like, $200 million Navy recruitment commercials and stuff. And I'm like, yes, I don't disagree with that. I wouldn't go so far as to call them propaganda because especially in the United States, like so much else in the United States is also military propaganda.
Sure. Yeah.
Like there's so much military ceremony wrapped up in entertainment in the United States that it's kind of like, well, I mean, okay, but Top Gun Maverick is like the one that's coming out every 5 years like that. Yeah. Is it like, do you believe in that? Like,
I fully think it's not like a conspiracy thing, but more like if an organization is big enough to change conversation and culture, why wouldn't it do it? The American military is the biggest thing in the whole fucking world. What, $70 billion? And why wouldn't they affect media?
The military industrial complex is
politics sure does.
Yeah.
Pharmaceuticals sure do. Tobacco, like every fucking movie has someone smoking something. It's like it's all to push the audience to buy a certain thing, right?
And also too, like in a previous episode I ranted about Air being like, as many other people have pointed out, it's a $100 million Nike commercial.
That's it.
And it's like, I think that's a little more cynical. Not that I think I'm like a big U.S. military apologist. I'm not. But I'm also just like, the way that people talked about it was, I was like, when did this become a surprise to you?
Exactly.
Because
it shouldn't be. That's my point. Yeah.
Since the days of like John Wayne and probably beforehand, there was like a lot of, even I think we talked about this in Jarhead way back. Go back and listen to our first episode, then listen to every episode and then catch up to this moment right now. But I think we talked about the idea that like someone famous said that like it's impossible for a war movie to escape valorizing war, which I don't think is true. Yeah, because there's other war movies that don't do that.
Of course,
like there's plenty of examples that are like this obviously isn't like, hey, war's cool. Even something like Saving Private Ryan, which is among my 10 favorite films of all time. I still think that while war is certainly hell in that movie, it's still is like, well, there's also honor in fighting this fight because there was a point to it, and so therefore it just edges over the line of being like, the American fight for freedom is not that bad.
Exactly. But American Sniper, 100%.
100%. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and
why wouldn't it be? Yeah.
I think American Sniper is a like straight up bad film. Yeah, like I just think it's shit. Yeah. And the thing that weirded me out the most when I saw it, which I think weirded a lot of people out, is like when you get to the end, it just like kind of fades, and then it's like,
oh my God.
And then his friend shot him or something crazy. Like, because the thing that's so weird about that movie is that they totally just gloss over the fact that him and the person he served with, who ended up killing him, were suffering from PTSD from their experiences.
Mm-hmm. Which, like, I think maybe pre 9/11, the narrative for a soldier's patriotism would have been different than post 9/11. We're seeing a lot of films clearly being anti-war. Right.
So many, weirdly in the wake of the Iraq War, I think lots of movies, like, I'm not saying they're all good, but I would definitely say The Hurt Locker is about that. Yeah. There's a movie, a not very well received. We might cover it someday, but it's not very well seen. But a movie that like could have been really good. Yeah. Called The Yellow Birds. Ooh. Which is very like very anti that whole thing. Like I don't know. I don't know. Yeah.
No, like, and it feels like almost like a no-brainer. Why wouldn't they push their agenda
I
if they have the money to do it.
I also think like there's lots of counterweight
yeah.
to that.
Yeah.
I think there's more war movies that are like, war is serious, you know, than there are that are just kind of like, hey, I want to join the Navy. Maybe you'll get to fly over to an unnamed country and bomb it. Wouldn't that be fun? No, but I think like even something like Black Hawk Down, which is an example I've used, is like, and on the other thing too is like, I mean, viewers are also people, and they can make their own. They can come to their own conclusions about what they think. Like I think people are capable of watching Top Gun Maverick and not being like, well, this movie makes the Navy look fun, but it doesn't mean I'm going to go join it. You know what I mean? And something like Black Hawk Down, which is like, when I think of Black Hawk Down, I think of how fucking crazy and violent it is. It's never something where I'm just like, boy, wouldn't that be fun? Like, Jesus.
Is there ever any war movie that you can think of that made you want to be like, yeah, I'd want to join the army someday as a kid?
No.
Like, never.
No.
I can't even think. Yeah, I can't even think of any movies that might have made me want to be.
I think, you know what I think it is about something like Top Gun, both the Top Gun movies, is that there is something tantalizing, certainly to some people, about working with like impressive machinery, for one. Like cool tools and things like that, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of like The Social Network, right?
Yeah.
We've talked about how much we think that Meta is one of the greatest companies to ever grace the earth.
Huge fans.
But like something like Meta, at the time, Facebook, when it came out, was like well on its way to killing our democracy and melting our brains, even in 2010 when The Social Network came out.
That sounds like propaganda to me.
No. But when The Social Network came out, it was like people were aware that it was like, maybe this isn't the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
Yet this movie comes out and in my opinion creates this atmosphere where people are like, I want to start my own Silicon Valley company.
Yep.
I want to make the next brain melting fucking whatever the fuck thing, so that Mark Zuckerberg can buy it and steal all of the IP. Like, you know what I mean? And
100%.
There is there can be a disconnect in people's minds, because while yes, like the terrible effects of something like Facebook can be clear, it's like, yeah, but you know,
think of millions of dollars.
$1 billion is cool.
Think
right?
of that.
And I think that can be like the thing is, I don't think a lot of people who do join the military, and maybe they do, but I don't think a lot of them, like most people, ever think like something really horrible is going to happen to me when I get out there. And it's like, no, they think like, there's many reasons why you would.
They think they might not even go to war.
Yeah, and they would have good reason to not think that. They really would, you know, like we're not.
It pays your bills, buys you a house.
Yeah, you get an education, things like that. Like I'm not. There's lots of awful things about it too. Yeah. But I do think that people, like, first of all, people can make their own decision and be like, I get that this is kind of propaganda, I'm not going to do it. Yep. But even people who want to join the military, it's kind of like, most of them, like most people in the world don't think like something terrible is going to happen to me for sure. Like, I don't wake up in the morning and I'm like, I'm going to get cancer. Like,
most people are too young when they're recruited and their prefrontal cortex is not fully developed. So they're 25 or under and they're already
and they think they're invincible, which is like the perfect time for recruiters to swoop in and pay all their medical bills. All right, enough about that. If it's propaganda, you're stupid.
Fuck, man. Yeah. You want to get into plot?
Yeah, I want to get into the plot.
Let's talk plot.
I mean, Owen Wilson and Gabriel Macht are just chilling on this aircraft carrier near the Balkans. Owen Wilson is like, I don't know why I'm here, man.
Wow.
I can't do it.
You just have to be very nasal.
Wow. Why are we here?
Wow.
Yeah, I can't do it.
Why are you?
I'm not very good at it. I will say I do like the opening shot of this movie. I think it's quite good. There's like a tree and the person's like planting this like tree, which later you find out is over a mass grave, which I think is like it's a good idea
smart
not a
choice.
good film.
Yeah.
But the other thing about the mass graves plot, they kind of give it away too early.
Sure.
And there's not enough gravity to it because it's pretty horrible. You know, like it's pretty awful.
They're not really handling anything in a sensitive way anyway.
No, and then even from like the beginning, it's very clear, like the Top Gun like opening sequence that it's like this is gonna be a movie about Americans in like a thing where it's like I mean, Americans aren't really the center of the world at this point.
Yeah,
Like in this conflict, really, like they're not
No.
really, you know.
But they're like daddy of liberalism or whatever. So every time anything goes wrong, anywhere else in the world, America's like, I got this.
I think
babe.
definitely with the September 11th thing, it's like America needs a win.
Yeah.
You know, America needs a win.
Too
in
bad
the
this
theaters.
win has to come in the form of this film, but all right.
You know what though? Like with all the sentiment, it's kind of like I think lots of people could probably forgive the quality issues of this movie and be
True.
like, you know, I just needed to see America kick some ass.
Yeah. And that's why it's remembered, right?
Well, me and you are sitting in this room talking about it. It doesn't mean anyone remembers it, to be perfectly honest.
I feel like Behind Enemy Lines, it's just such a memorable film for certain scenes.
I mean, it's starring two huge... It's a movie that I very much predict people will be like, yeah, I saw that once, like you.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's it. And that's
it.
all it needs to be.
Yeah. And we're telling you right now, you really don't need to rewatch it.
No.
If you've seen it one time, that's quite
That's
all
about
right.
it.
Yeah. So basically, Owen Wilson wants to leave the Navy and start flying civilian or whatever. And Gene Hackman is like, why? Serving's great. You're at war.
You could
Neat.
be cool like me.
And then Owen Wilson's like, I don't know, man.
Why?
Yeah. Exactly. And so they go on like a routine reconnaissance mission and they fly out of the safe zone and take photographs.
It's not even routine because Owen Wilson threatens to quit the Navy.
No, he does. He hands in his
He
resignation.
has in his letter. Yeah. And so out of spite, his admiral is like, you know what?
Christmas
You're going
Day.
on a holiday mission for 2 weeks to fuck around in the sky.
No, it's not 2 weeks. It's a couple hours, babe. It's a reconnaissance mission.
No, it's 2 weeks away from his resignation.
Right, yeah. On Christmas Day.
On Christmas Day.
Yeah. And so they fly over and they take photographs. Little do they know they've taken a photograph of a mass grave and they get shot down.
Oh.
Now, there are very few good scenes in this movie.
Yeah.
The missile chase scene, I think, is quite good.
Yes, it's my favorite.
When I looked at what people thought of this movie to get a general vibe,
yeah,
most people said, like, that missile scene is very intense. The rest of the movie, not so. And they really blow their load pretty early.
They really
do.
Yeah. That's the perfect type
even
of
with the really bad special effects. Like, I do think that missile scene is quite good.
Yeah. This is my exact type of favorite film where it's like, we were just supposed to take pictures and then all hell broke loose. We were just not even meant to be there. And everything that could go wrong went wrong.
We were just trying to make hotornot.com and now we have billions of dollars.
Look at that.
Yeah. A couple
this
of goofs.
The social network of the sky.
Remember the goofy algorithm on the window, buddy?
A couple of silly gooses trying to trample them.
Remember that guy from Napster that we hired?
Oh, and successfully doing so.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic opening. It's also one of my favorite scenes. It's gripping too. You're at the edge of your seat watching them zip around, and then it's not just one missile, it's like 2 and 3, and my God, they do dodge it nearly. You know what I do like about this scene, which I like about a lot of movies, is the kind of like, I like detailed technical stuff in films, and I actually prefer, like, I think there's a way that, even especially back in 2001, where unfortunately, I'm not saying this is a good thing, but I do think when people would make things, people would be like, oh my God, look, theater goers are fucking stupid, so don't make anything too fucking complicated, or else they're gonna come out and they're gonna be like, hey, why did that thing do that? And I hate it. And we're I think people are more sophisticated viewers now, and I really do actually like those like technical kind of details. Yeah.
And in this scene, I like the thing which I didn't know because I'm not a military person, but like I didn't know, like, the missile, when it breaks apart and it shoots the like spray of stuff at their wing and then it blows up and then shoots towards them. I was like, that's cool. I like that kind of shit. Yes. And I like the way, I like the kind of, like, whether it's accurate or not, I like the silly chatter in the cockpit when they're trying to get away.
Definitely.
And then he's saying, like, the jargon of it. I really like that stuff in movies.
Yeah.
And people should do more of it, honestly.
And they kind of kept it going even when they crash land. They still have some kind of banter back and forth between them just for 1 second. It's an intense scene, but they're trying to lighten the mood a little bit because Stackhouse is on the ground. His leg is busted, but he's smiling. And Owen Wilson's character walks up to him like, you're a shitty driver or whatever. Like, you're a shitty pilot. Like, why don't you learn how to fly? And it was great. And then he's like, okay, I'm just going to walk away, get you something. And then
he tries to get to, so yeah, they crash land. He tries to get to high ground. I do think it's kind of like it's a little corny, but I think it's a cool shot when they parachute down and there's the statue with the one face
of course.
is nice and the other one's blown off.
There's music as soon as the face switches to
again. That's the thing is like
fucking Law and Order
in better hands that might be a better scene. So Owen Wilson tries to get to high ground to get the radio working, and then as he's up there, the entire Serbian military comes over the hill and kills Stackhouse basically.
Just before Stackhouse dies, though, there is such excellent use of tension where the camera is just on Stackhouse and he's in a completely open field, like for miles, right? There's nothing. And then you're just in the moment and he's looking around, smiling but apprehensive. Oh, that was the most nervous I've been.
And then you're just like, oh, he's going to die.
And for sure.
Also, so throughout this movie, Owen Wilson is pursued by this kind of like nameless Serbian villain dressed in a tracksuit. A guy,
the classic Eastern European tracksuit guy.
The Eastern European uniform, state uniform. Who, speaking of video games, if anyone's ever played Grand Theft Auto 4, the character of Niko Bellic, who you play as, he is so clearly inspired by this guy. Just go look at a picture of him and you're like, oh yeah. Okay.
Is he also in a blue Adidas suit?
No, but he's very clearly been inspired by this character.
Cool.
I would take that to the bank. Like I'm pretty sure he was. Yeah. So Stackhouse dies. Owen Wilson runs away. Essentially, he runs away under heavy fire and
like the entire fucking tank is there. Everyone's shooting 7,000 bullets at him. None graze our angelic boy child.
He's a good sprinter, I guess. So essentially, he escapes to go to like a pickup spot. He radios Gene Hackman, and Gene Hackman's like, all right, you got to go to this other place, and then we're going to come and get you. In the meantime, the head of NATO or whatever is like, you can't do that because we're in the middle of a peace process.
Yeah.
So any interference will be seen as aggression, and it'll fuck up the peace process, right? And, it's the classic, like, save one man, maybe thousands
Very
will
utilitarian argument. Great.
Yeah. And then Owen Wilson gets to that pickup spot, and Gene Hackman's like, sorry, you got to go to a different one.
And it's just the way Gene Hackman delivers that line. He's just like, man, I can't. I feel like I'm emoting way more than he did in that moment. He's just like, well, that's not going to happen, sport. Listen here.
He's like, got to be like hard on him. Like he's like,
why?
Well, because he can't tell him why over the radio, right?
But he's basically leaving him to die anyway.
Exactly. Yes, that's kind of why it's a difficult decision for him. There's like a part where Gene Hackman does like, in a very grandfatherly way, he's kind of like, there's a reason I'm hard on him,
Yeah.
It's for times like these.
It's because I was hard on him earlier, and then also the whole time I've known him.
He's like my son.
Now I got to be hard on him so he knows that I'm harder than before. When I was harder still.
I've been hard this whole time. I'm Gene Hackman.
Gene Hardman.
Yeah. I'm almost about to retire from movie making.
Gene or old NATO of hardness.
Yeah, he was also in Royal Tenenbaums with Owen Wilson. Weird.
Yeah. Oh.
They're very similar films, so that makes a lot of sense why they,
Owen Wilson, Will Smith, same guy. Chameleons, both of them.
Yeah.
Anytime Gene Hackman shows up, it's one or the other.
Who was Will Smith in Royal Tenenbaums?
Enemy at the Gates. Nope. I've already moved on to a different Gene Hackman.
I can tell. Yeah, you're talking about something completely. You let my joke just hang there.
I Serbian military your NATO command ship. What?
So anyway, Owen Wilson has to go to a different pickup spot. And that's when he runs away. He falls on the mass grave.
Yeah.
Where there's some very enemy of the state technology at use here, where they like are watching,
it.
which is another like the tension in the scene is quite good because you don't know why he's not moving.
Yeah.
And they don't know why he's not moving, and
No.
the entire all they say is like, why is he not moving in the scene? And then you find out it's because he's like fallen under all these bodies and crawls out from under. That's pretty gnarly.
Mm-hmm. And that's the only scene I remembered watching as a child, and was like,
it's pretty disturbing. Yeah. Like, oh yeah, it's pretty rough. But again, they don't really make it disturbing enough for how disturbing it
They
truly
also
is.
don't handle it well enough for it to be like inciting some kind of emotion that is more than just Ugh.
Owen Wilson also doesn't quite handle the fact that
No.
he has just had to lay under a dead Bosnian.
Yeah.
You know, and he's just kind of like, "Ooh, that was a little much." Yeah.
Dead Bosniak, possibly. I think it was
Yeah.
a grave of dead Muslim community people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Damn.
And then he goes through the minefield where inexplicably children are playing.
Oh, you know.
It's pretty irresponsible, I would say.
What, like you had a cool childhood? Brag. We out here hopscotching over some mind trip lines.
This is why I'm so slow and not well coordinated, because I didn't have to dodge mines when I was growing up.
I'm out here nimble
Which
as fuck.
is a real cool thing that some children have to do in the real world today. Sorry.
We're not laughing at you. We're laughing with you.
Thanks to
Indeed.
a little country known as America.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Daddy Liberty.
Sorry to the people of Laos. Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
So basically, Hackman is stonewalled, and he leaks the thing to the story to the press to like get things moving.
Yeah.
This is where America takes over, bro. Then Owen Wilson, he like encounters this militia in this town. There's a big firefight in the town. It's like very chaotic. Then eventually he escapes in disguise to get to the rally point. But they think he's died because the Serbian military has reported that he's died.
Yeah.
And they don't come to the rally point, and he has to get out some other way.
Serbian military has a guy wearing his head is all covered up, but he's wearing Owen Wilson
changed
uniform.
his clothes, yeah.
So obviously Owen Wilson took that guy's uniform and a ski mask.
Yeah.
As he walks away to fucking slow-mo
when he
music?
walks away, he's like, there's two guys on the tank that he's beside.
Yeah.
And he like takes it off when he's like, it's like, dude,
Way too soon.
you gotta like walk way further away.
You gotta act way over there.
Because to be fair, he's the only blonde person for like 500
Come
square
on.
miles. Yeah.
Also, the music that plays.
Yeah. Oh, you know what I actually do like in the minefield scene?
Yeah.
When the one mine blows up and there's a slow motion of the guy feeling the shockwave.
Perfect.
Actually do like that.
They
I thought
did
it was cool.
such a good job. So that's what I mean, right? Like that's a practical effect, right?
I think so.
That's a stunt guy.
It's a stylistic choice as well. Like
cool, but like it's so far spread apart that by the time you get to the second one, you've already forgotten.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That could have been the movie.
John Moore is making these like stylistic choices that are just it seems so inconsistent. Like he's doing a bunch of different cool things, but you're just kind of like, well, I get that they're cool, but like I don't know, like
why?
they don't all kind of string together.
Yeah.
And yeah. So anyway, Owen Wilson, he doesn't get picked up, and then he sees he's back at this statue, and he knows that's where the seat from the plane fell, which has all the recordings and a homing beacon on it.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes up there. I mean, essentially, like he goes up there, he turns on the homing beacon. The guy from Grand Theft Auto 4 comes to get him.
Sasha.
Owen Wilson kills him, and then the entire Serbian military shows up, just as a couple helicopters from the U.S. show up and
Apocalypse Now style.
summary execute a bunch of Serbians.
Fucking hell.
Just fuck them up completely.
The entire Serbian army is descended upon this one guy, Owen Wilson.
Yeah.
And they're like 600 bullets are flying right at his head, but he just keeps running.
Yeah, I think
it's an open field.
Yeah.
What?
I think that was one of Roger Ebert's big criticisms of this film, was that the enemy can't hit the broadside of a Bosnian barn was the line that he used. Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. And then he jumps to safety with the evidence and fucking Finn.
Owen Wilson is the fittest he's ever been for this film.
Oh, yeah.
He was in great shape.
Yeah.
And I'm glad he didn't continue to do more of the same. I'm glad he just turned into a nice guy / somewhat
I mean, I think his like being scared off of ever doing a serious film again. I think that he goes on, and a couple of years later he does Wedding Crashers, which is like probably arguably his biggest film, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it worked out for him.
Yeah.
Do you like Midnight in Paris?
I do.
Yeah, I do.
I
too.
do.
Yeah.
I just very recently saw it for the first time. I was
Yeah.
trying to think of which is the one. That's the one.
It's the Woody Allen one.
With all the old timey writers.
Yeah, it's
because it's got my guy
Rachel
Peter,
McAdams.
my guy Rachel McAdams in it. My guy Peter from House of Cards.
Yes.
What's his
He
name?
plays Ernest Hemingway.
That's the guy.
Yeah.
He's great. he would have been fucking killer in this.
He's just good in everything.
But everybody could have been.
But we don't even remember his name in this house.
It's Peter.
Because we're an alcoholic. This is an alcoholic's house. All right, you said you had a top 5 to go through. I mean, is there anything more to say about this movie? Like,
God,
really,
no.
I think we said a lot.
I'm about to say the most.
I think we really drew blood from a stone with this one. But here's my final verdict. All right.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. This movie is perfectly entertaining and perfectly acceptable. I don't think it's very good. And I don't think it's like you got to rush out. I don't think you got to rush out to Blockbuster and rent it. Let's just put it that way. But maybe if you were 11 or 12 when it came out, fuck yeah. All right, cool.
What I'm saying is when it throws itself on automatically on the television, you wouldn't be compelled to change the channel.
Yeah, it's totally mindless and just don't worry about it. Yeah. Go on. Top 5.
Top 5 Navy admirals who could have easily replaced Gene Hackman in this movie. Number 5, Janine Garofalo.
Why?
Why are you laughing?
Why Janine Garofalo?
Because she's a bad bitch.
Is she a Navy admiral?
She would be the Navy admiral.
Okay.
NATO admiral, she corrects in her notes. Janine Garofalo would just...
I like how you're correcting your notes like we're going to use them again sometime.
Hard save into permanent drives. Janine Garofalo, can you imagine her just holding the walkie-talkie, chatting with Owen Wilson in the battlefield on the other side, being like...
Yeah, I could actually. I could now.
Giving a proper impassioned speech. Come on, man.
I could, but she's just wearing that Gene Hackman's cap, but just regular, like a tank top and a skirt. Otherwise,
just her usual long skirt. Yeah. Jean jacket, maybe. I don't know. Jeanine herself.
Okay, go on.
Out here, just emoting with her hands, and the whole time they're like, ma'am, they cannot see your hands. You're doing the most.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Janine, she's going to kill it. Number 4, Seinfeld.
Jerry
Seinfeld. What's the deal with airplanes?
He's stuck in Bosnia.
Are they Bosniaks in Bosnia? We don't know.
Oh, I bet Seinfeld had so many jokes about the Yugoslav wars, and when we were before our time, they were lost in performances.
The only Yugoslavs.
I just heard ethnic cleansing the other day.
Is this a new brand of Tide Pods? Okay, Jerry. Great. Still better than Gene Hackman. Gene phones
This guy knows how to make me laugh.
Goddamn right.
Anyway,
Number 3, Samantha from Sex and the City. She could fucking command.
Not even whatever the actress's name is who we're blanking
No,
on.
she would have to be Samantha. We can't have...
What the fuck is her name?
Carrie...
No, it's not.
Kelly... Kim Cattrall. What up, dog?
KC. As we call her.
But Casey, I don't know Casey, but I know Samantha. And Samantha will get on that walkie-talkie trying to convince Owen Wilson to hold on to dear life, being like, why fly over a demilitarized zone when I can just fly over D nuts?
Burnett, I just want to get my pussy ate. I'm on this ship trying to get my pussy ate.
Jesus. Oh, fantastic. Number two, my dad. My dad is better than Gene Hackman. My dad... He can really rally the troops.
Yeah, I mean, your dad has experience working with
He spent
international people.
Yeah. Working life just neck deep in fucking disaster rescue missions.
Yeah.
Sick guy. He would also be way better at yelling at Owen Wilson. What? Wow, why are you saying wow, stupid fellow? He'd be so upset. Why do you do not argue with me? It would be great. I think number one, this is a serious one. Number 1... replacement.
Your dad was number 1.
No, he's number 2.
Oh, right.
Only man better than my dad, Sean Connery. Sean Connery would have fucking crushed this.
That's a legit one though. That would be he would have been really good. Yeah.
No one better than this. No one greater.
What's a Scotsman doing as an admiral in the Navy?
Because he's doing the best he can.
I'm hard on him.
Hey, mustache. Look at that. So good. What? Chills. I would watch it all over again.
For times like these, that's why I'm hard on him.
Fuck, babe. That is really good.
I've never really done it before.
Oh,
I've never really done a
It's
Connery.
very natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
SNL, call me. I'm really good at imitating dead celebrities.
Perfect.
Remember that time he told Barbara Walters he would hit a woman?
Oh, when you could just be that way. And now now Joy is dead.
Classic Connery. Yeah.
There's a hard T at the end of that con.
Oh man. I think we had more to say about this movie than I thought we would, but you know what?
That's
I'm
right.
glad we had this conversation.
Me too. # never forget enemy at the gates. Nope. Behind enemy line.
Have you thought we were talking about Enemy at the Gates this entire time?
Could you imagine if I came out of the left field being like, anyway, Jude Law, what is the deal with his accent? Why does he say wow so much? Oh.
Could you imagine Owen Wilson in Enemy at the Gates?
Fuck, man. I'm having trouble imagining him in this movie.
When I look through this scope, I can see the other guy real close.
Wow.
Wow. Oh, man, Stalingrad looks like shit. Thank you for listening.
Oh.
I'm Big Mother, your Whiskey Tango. Kisses to everybody. Grandpa
you.
kisses from Gene Hackman and
Bye.
Sean Connery. I'm hard on him. Sean Connery, I'm hard right now.
Okay.
All right, talk to you later. Bye.
Respect.